step out into a cold wind, or hear one impossibly beautiful note of music, and your skin does something strange. It erupts, tiny bumps all over your arms. The little hairs stand straight up. A prickling wave rolls across your body. And you did not decide to do any of it. You cannot start goosebumps on command. You cannot stop them either. Your skin simply acts, completely on its own. It feels like a small, harmless quirk. A funny little thing bodies do, but it is so much stranger than that, because in that very moment, your body is trying, with everything it has, to do one very specific thing. It is trying to fluff up a thick coat of warm fur, a coat your ancestors had and that you lost millions of years ago. You are running an ancient program for a body you no longer have, raising fur that simply is not there. So why does your skin still do this? The answer is a ghost story, written right into your own body. Let us take a closer look. To understand goosebumps, we have to zoom in, way in, right down to a single hair on your arm. Every hair on your body grows out of a tiny pit in the skin called a follicle, and attached to the side of that follicle is something most people never think about. A minuscule muscle. It is called the arrector pili, a tiny band of muscle, smaller than a grain of rice, wrapped against the root of the hair. At rest, it stays loose, and your hair lies flat and relaxed against your skin. But when the signal arrives, that tiny muscle suddenly clenches, and it yanks the hair bolt upright. As it pulls, it tugs the skin around the hair up into a little raised dome. One tiny bump. Now picture that happening to millions of hairs at once, in a single instant. That whole wave of bumps is what we call goosebumps. But a muscle cannot fire itself. Something has to pull the trigger. And that something is a kind of alarm system inside you. Deep in your body runs the sympathetic nervous system. It is the branch of your wiring that handles emergencies. It is the same system behind fight or flight, the one that floods you when you are startled, or freezing, or afraid. When it fires, it sends a chemical messenger racing down to those tiny muscles. A signal called noradrenaline, and every arrector pili muscle gets the same command at once. Pull, now. This is why goosebumps feel so instant and so out of your control. They ride the very same express wiring as raw fear. Cold triggers it, terror triggers it, and, strangely, so does a piece of music. But we will come back to that. To see why any of this exists at all, we have to leave humans behind and look at a furry animal out in the cold. Picture a wolf on a freezing night. As the temperature drops, its whole coat puffs outward. Every one of those tiny muscles is lifting a hair, and all that raised fur traps a thick layer of air against the skin. That trapped air is warmed by the body and held in place. It becomes a blanket the animal grows in an instant. So the very first job of goosebumps was warmth, a fast, built-in way to survive the cold. But the same reflex found a second, sneakier job. Think of a frightened cat. When a cat is threatened, its fur shoots straight up. Its tail balloons. Suddenly it looks far bigger than it truly is. That is the exact same muscles, the exact same reflex, puffing up to bluff a predator into backing off. Warmth and looking bigger. For a furry animal, goosebumps are genuinely useful. For you, though, something has gone missing, because you inherited this whole system, perfectly intact. The muscles, the nerves, the ancient signal. Every single piece still works. There is just one problem. Somewhere along the way, your ancestors lost their thick coat of fur. Compared to a wolf or a chimp, your body is almost bare. Just fine, wispy little hairs where a coat used to be. So when your alarm fires and all those muscles yank, They are lifting hairs far too small to trap any real warmth. You get the bumps, you get the prickle, but the actual payoff, the warmth, the bigger body, barely happens at all. It is like an old button that still clicks perfectly, long after the machine it once controlled was taken away. This is what scientists call a vestigial trait, a leftover, machinery still running for a body you no longer have. Goosebumps are a ghost of your fur, a reflex that outlived the very coat it was built to raise. If your very human, very furless skin is enjoying this little mystery, tap subscribe. Curio unpacks one of these every single day. Okay, back to your goosebumps. Now here is where the story takes a genuinely strange turn, because cold and fear are not the only things that raise your fur. Sometimes a song does it, a soaring voice, a swelling chord, and all at once your arms are covered in bumps. Scientists have a lovely name for this feeling, frisson, the shiver of being deeply moved, and it makes no obvious sense at all. A beautiful melody is not cold, it is not a hungry predator. So why does your fur react? The answer is that your emotional peaks quietly borrow the very same alarm wiring. A powerful, moving moment sets off a surge of that same fight-or-flight system, and your skin responds the only way it knows how. Some researchers think these chills are tied to feeling profoundly touched or awed or connected to something far larger than yourself. So the reflex that once fluffed a wolf against the snow now rises when a piece of music breaks your heart wide open. Same machinery, brand new meaning. For a long time, that was the whole story. Goosebumps were simply a useless leftover, a charming little evolutionary fossil. But then, in 2020, scientists at Harvard found something that flipped the script. They looked closely at that tiny muscle, the nerve feeding it, and the hair follicle, all together. And they realized these three things are not just neighbors. They form a single, connected unit. The nerve that triggers your goosebumps also reaches right into the hair follicle and touches its stem cells, the cells that grow brand new hair. In the short term, cold makes that nerve fire, and you get goosebumps. That part we already knew. But over the long term, the very same nerve signal wakes those stem cells up and tells them to grow fresh new hair. In other words, the muscle that seems so useless is quietly keeping the wiring alive. The wiring that helps regrow your hair in the cold. And that changes how we should think about goosebumps entirely. Yes, raising your invisible fur does almost nothing to keep you warm today. In that sense, it truly is a leftover. But the little machine behind it may still be doing a hidden second job, quietly maintaining the link between cold, nerves, and new hair. So are goosebumps useless, or not? Honestly, scientists are still working that out. And there is a deeper mystery they have barely cracked. Why do we get them from music, and beauty, and awe? Nobody fully knows why a melody should raise the ghost of a coat you lost millions of years ago. Maybe it is just crossed wires. Or maybe those chills are telling us something about being moved that we do not yet understand. Either way, next time your skin prickles at a cold wind or a perfect note, remember what is really happening. Your body is reaching for a coat of fur that vanished long ago. A small, faithful ghost of the animal you used to be. Stay curious.